cave, and then talk a little bit about your caving experience.
okay.
What got you involved with doing that?
Okay, that goes back to the 1960s. That's quite a while back. I knew the Indians. I know the Indians still. Most of them are dead that I knew then. But I was working in California at the time, and on weekends my wife and I go up to Nevada to the Lovelock Cave area, clear back as far as that. And I got acquainted with the Pansy Lee Martin in the museum. And we got talking about the big Lovelock Cave and her stories, and she'd been there 40 years. And she knew the Indians well, and so I got some inside stories that were pretty interesting that I began following. At that time, the cave as is today is nothing like it was then. It's been partly buried. How, I'm not sure, but it's been desecrated somewhat, and it's been improved on with a deck inside now that tells a story that's controversial about who lived there. But anyway, I brought in photographs that you'll see in the museum here that no one ever took of the things then existing in the museum that were they're denied today.
Yes, I've heard
They're
that
totally
story.
denied, and we've been chased out of the museum by going there, and our face shows up and they want us in there because I know.
Yeah.
I even sold my
You
first
have
book
the
there
evidence, yeah.
in the museum years ago, and not to divulge all of it, but there's giant skulls missing out of the museum. Some of the skulls they show on the production TV show called Ancient Aliens.
Yes, yeah.
They've showed some of the skulls I knew about, and I even called in on we had a radio show for a while, 15 years. MK and I had a radio show till 2 years ago. But I called in on the radio there, people to tell me if they knew where the giant skull went and the skull missing. No one ever answered the question, of course.
Yeah.
But in this museum right here are the pictures I took.
Yeah, I'll take pictures of your pictures and add
And
it
they're
to
in there
this.
and they're in different places, but they're definitely giant pictures.
Yeah.
And the giant handprint, of course, is part of it. That's
Yeah,
stories.
how did you come across that?
I went to Lovelock Cave at least 50 times in my life before I even met MK.
Okay.
Met MK in 2002 or 3. I can't remember what year it was. But we've been close connected ever since. And him being a photographer and me being what I am, but a adventurer. We went there a lot of times, and on the stories about Mary Winnemucca Hopkins, about life among the Paiutes, her book, famous book.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of Western history. I'm not going to go there, but I do know a lot of it, enough to really be involved in this thing, and Chinese history as well. It goes with it. And I found some plaques out there in the museum on the floor in the Lovelock Cave area there, Winnemucca, that were walked on and forgot about and dust covered. And Pansy Lee and I, about 30 years ago, I had a friend in Hawaii who's a Chinese woman. I know her. And she interpreted it for me, and I wrote those by one of my books I wrote. But it tells on the plaques that indicates that only the gods and the intelligent ones, explorers, know the way to the far places and the way back. Well, this beginning, she put those on the wall then. I got them all cleaned up and put on the wall. They were last publicly shown in about 1849 during the gold rush in Winnemucca, Baud Avenue. Baud meaning prostitution. Anyway, the white people put them as a spoof up as a desecration to try to degrade them,
Yeah.
which would, we go into race problem. We
Sure.
got lots of it.
Yeah.
So anyway, indications were that they came here before Columbus. And I know they did. I believe that.
Yes, I do too.
And quite a ways before Columbus hit the West Indies. And there's Chinese DNA. This is interesting too, and it might be in the Sasquatch. In the American Indian nations, check me out, there's about 40% of Chinese blood in all nations in the Middle West, all the way across in Arizona, New Mexico, and all the way to the East Coast, and the Algonquins. And there's also blood from the European people in Minnesota and this kind of area probably. In the American West I come from, there's DNA from Chinese as well, but they're not as prevalent. But there's Polynesian blood among them, and also there's Philippine blood, and there's places like in Washington State, like names that sound Indian were actually Hawaiian,
Yeah.
and so you got to compare those possibilities of origination of the races and people who settled here in the world, you know. And as you know, the Western names are all MacDonald, Mackenzie, Monroe, and all the Scottish people, Scottish Irish, and basically they are. Well, that's the same way with our ancient travelers that come from Viking stock, and a lot of them brought with them Eurasian people.
When people
Europe.
encountered each other, they tended to
yeah.
interbreed.
That's
and
right. And you see the
what
Cro-Magnon man and Neanderthal and go where you want to see all that stuff didn't just stop overnight. They might carry 1,000 years into where we don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And even today, I mean, we're white races, of course, but what are we? I mean, what do you have in your bloodline that I don't have, or vice versa?
Yeah.
But we're still unified, and the Sasquatch is the same way. So that's